Okay, time for a new video, and whether you are somebody new to my channel or you are returning to my channel to watch this video, it is greatly appreciated. As always, I'm filming this video in one go, so if I stumble over my words moving forwards, apologies about that, and also if the quality of this video is fairly poor as well. If there's any lag, anything like that at all, sadly it cannot be helped, and hopefully it is not too much of an issue for you. I recently had the dreaded virus, and I am still recovering from it. I no longer have it, but I have some after effects, so if I start coughing or stumbling over my words more frequently than usual, you know why. Just getting it out there now. So, I am back with another Eurovision related video, ladies and gentlemen, and today I am filming a video that I've had planned for a few days now. I don't know if it's going to be that interesting, but we're going to run with it anyway, because why not? Today, I'm going to be talking a little bit about previous presenters of the Eurovision Song Contest, an area to do with the ESC that I've never really discussed in the past. I am very interested to know your thoughts on previous presenters and indeed on possible presenters of the 2023 contest. I'll be discussing that as well later on in this video. Feel free to leave comments or contact me on my other social media pages. Links in the description as always to those pages. Check them out if you so wish. So I thought that I would go back a decade rather than going back to the turn of the century, because I don't really want this video to be super boring, and super long. So I'm going back a decade, and of course next year is 2023, so if we go back 10 years from then, 2013, that's the year that we're going to be starting with. So, in 2013, we had just one presenter for the Malmö competition in Sweden, and it was the legend herself, Petra Mede. Now, I'm just going to take a look here. The last time there was one singular presenter of the ESC was back in 1995, and that was a woman too, Mary Kennedy in Dublin. But in 2013, it was Petra. And Petra has just gone down as a Eurovision legend in the eyes of many. She came back in 2016, more on that in a moment. She also hosted alongside Graham Norton the sort of Eurovision celebration show, the Greatest Hits show, several years ago in London. That was quite good. And I think what was particularly impressive was that she was able to do it all by herself. Absolute proof that you don't need multiple presenters for this thing. If you are professional, I suppose experienced, competent enough, you can do it on your own. And Petra was just fantastic. She had that wonderful blend of complete professionalism, but also a sprinkling of humour, a bit of wit, real rapport with the fans. Everybody just loved her, and I believe that what am I trying to say here? Sorry, brain fog. She hosted Melfest. I think she's hosted it twice, maybe 3 times, but I think she hosted in 2009. So she was already quite established in Sweden. It wasn't like she came out of nowhere to do this. And she just did a really, really terrific job. That was the year we had the Swedish smorgasbord. I don't really remember too much about that, but I know that was a particular highlight in terms of the presenting aspect of the show. Let me just find out some facts about Petra while I'm here. She's 52, from Stockholm. She has hosted Melfest twice, 2009 and 2016, which was also the year she hosted Eurovision for a second time. She speaks multiple languages. Yeah. She also presents the Swedish version of The Wheel, which is a British show. I didn't even know there were foreign versions of that, but there we are. Anyway, Petra is great, and if Sweden were to host again very soon, which is entirely possible, you've got to be thinking that Petra is going to be back for a 3rd time. I think she'd be a very popular choice with a lot of people, and maybe with the Swedish broadcaster too, I don't know. Anyway, 2014, we had 3 hosts, 1 woman, 2 guys, Lise Ronne, Nikolai Koppel, and Pilu Asbæk. This was in Copenhagen, of course. Now, Lise is a journalist and TV presenter, best known, it says here, in Denmark, for presenting 4 seasons of their edition of the X Factor. She's 43, and she's also presented Dansk Melodi Grand Prix, as well as many other shows, including one called Boogie. So there you go. Nikolai Koppel was born in 1969, and he is a musician. Both of his parents are musicians, and he was a judge on the Danish version of Got Talent as well, once upon a time. As for Pilu Asbæk, he's the most recognisable of the 3 because he was in Game of Thrones. He played Euron Greyjoy, and he was also in Borgen, which is quite a popular Danish export TV series. He's 40 years of age. He's been in loads of different things, loads of films. He was in Uncharted and Ben-Hur. What? A Ben-Hur remake. I'm not familiar with that. And loads of TV shows, including 9 episodes of Game of Thrones. Now, what I remember about the 2014 hosts is that they were fine, the script not so much. It felt very forced and not particularly humorous. You might recall that whole skit about China. What was that about? I don't really know. It wasn't really funny at all. I think it was to do with the fact that China were broadcasting the contest. I don't really recall. We also had some very awkward green room moments with Lisa at the helm. There was that whole bit she did with Twin of France and Molly Switten-Downs of the UK. And clearly, when you do something like that, you're not entirely sure what's going to happen. And it's live TV, although they must have rehearsed it. I don't really know, but it was just quite awkward watching it live. So, really, the 2014 hosts, I think they were let down by certain elements of the script. But there we are. Anyway, 2015, whoa boy, now we are, going into rocky territory here. We had Miriam Weichselbraun, Alice Tumler and Arabella Kiesbauer. This was the Vienna contest, which I have to say I don't look back on with particularly brilliant memories. That contest, I think, is actually maybe one of the weakest of recent years. Anyway, the hosts, I don't want to be too harsh here because they did a better job than I could ever do. But it was so wooden in terms of the delivery. There didn't really seem to be a great deal of chemistry between these 3 women. I know that we had Conchita as well, and to be honest, Conchita could have done it all by themselves. Did we really need these 3 women as well? Probably not. My God, it just felt very bland. I don't remember there being a whole lot of humour. At the start of the 2015 final, we had that performance and they were miming the lyrics of the song, which was also a bit on the awkward side. I don't know. I don't think the 2015 hosts were particularly great. Miriam is best known in Austria for presenting Dancing Stars. Alice is a TV presenter, and Arabella is an Austrian-born German-Austrian TV presenter. So there you go. I just remember the delivery. I know I said that earlier, but it was all so formal in a way. There didn't seem to be much relaxation and just sort of finding your way into the show, if you see what I mean. Oh, I don't know. It was all a bit pants, to be honest with you. Anyway, 2016, the benchmark for future contests. Petra was back, and she bounced off Mons Zelmerlöw, the previous year's winner. And Mons himself has done plenty of TV presenting, so he was completely at ease here. He's very charismatic, looked great, sang along with Pietra, and that wasn't mined. It was just fantastic. The script was fantastic. We had Love, Love, Peace, Peace, and that other Eurovision tribute song. Oh, it was just absolutely tremendous. Great chemistry, totally at ease with each other, professional and also relaxed and humorous when that was needed, a little injection if that was needed. Sublime. Really, really good stuff. And clearly they were just totally comfortable with the script and what was expected of them. A top job. Nothing else to say, really. In 2017, though, Ukraine celebrated diversity by having 3 white men at the helm. Alexander Skichko, Volodymyr Rostapchuk and Timur Miroshnichenko. Now, Timur is a guy I think we're going to be seeing a lot more of next year, because he is almost certainly going to be one of the presenters in Liverpool as Ukraine's figure amongst the hosting double act or trio, however many it's going to be. He is Mr. Ukraine Eurovision. He's been around for so long, Junior Eurovision, the adult competition, commentating. He is a great ambassador for Ukraine when it comes to Eurovision. He is the man. So get him back. Good-looking chap with a bow tie. Then you've got Volodymyr, who is also a voice actor and radio host, and I have a feeling he's not that much older than me. He's nearly a decade older than me, so I don't know what I'm on about there. And then Alexander, I know for a fact, there he is. He's gone into politics. Or he was in politics up until this March. He was governor of Cherkasy Oblast. So there you go. He's 31, so he's only a little bit older than me. And can you believe it? Went into politics. Anyway, I think the issue here was similar to what it was like in 2014, with the script not being up to par. The humour felt quite forced, and it wasn't particularly humorous in the first place. And it felt quite stilted in terms of the delivery. Who will be the next qualifier? I'm doing a terrible impression here, probably highly offensive, but it didn't seem to flow at times. And Timur, I don't remember seeing much of him at all, actually. I think he cleared off for most of the live shows. Anyway, didn't he do green room stuff? I can't remember. Anyway, celebrate diversity. Ukraine could have done a little bit better on that front, but they weren't absolutely terrible either. In 2018, Portugal said, aha, we'll show them how it's done. We'll have 4 women do it. Silvia Alberto, Daniela Rua, Catarina Furtado, and Filomena Cautela. Now, I believe, and I could be talking absolute rubbish here, Filomena, out of the 4, is perhaps the most popular out of those, because I know she has her own TV show in Portugal, and she's also an actress. She could have done it by herself. I was already familiar with her name prior to her being announced as one of the hosts for the Lisbon contest. Catarina is a UNFPA Goodwill Ambassador, as well as a TV presenter and actress. Barely remember a thing she did during Eurovision. Daniela was in NCIS Los Angeles, yes she was, an American and Portuguese actress. And then you had Silvia, who has been working as a TV presenter for a very long time in Portugal. The issue here, if indeed you can call it an issue, is that we didn't need 4 presenters. Too many cooks spoil the broth, the Portuguese broth in this instance. You didn't need 4 presenters. One person, as I've already established, one person can do it by themselves. And while I think the 4 women genuinely got on and there was good chemistry between the 4 of them, did you really need that many? I don't think so. I really don't think so. Nothing much else to say. I mean, they were fine. They weren't awful, but they weren't top tier either, without sounding rude. In 2019, we had 4 presenters again in Tel Aviv. Bar Raffaeli, who is a model, businesswoman, and TV presenter. She also modelled for Sports Illustrated swimsuit once upon a time. Erez Tal, who is the chap who dressed very formally with his big glasses, 61 years of age. There he is. He also hosted Israel's Big Brother once upon a time. And then you had Assi Azar, who could have done it by himself. He was the guy we saw the most of during the 2019 contest. Quite charismatic, sort of interacted well with the camera and the crowd and the fans. And I think he was there in the green room a little bit as well. That was fine. And some of the green room stuff was a little bit awkward. John Paul Gaultier was there for some reason, and they were talking to him. And I always feel as though the green room chats are a complete waste of time. I'm not really interested in them. I'm really not. But Assi Azar, who is 43, he's presented Israel's Big Brother as well. Yeah, I would not be surprised if he's a Eurovision host again in the future, if Israel win within the next 10, 20 years. It says here that he was accused of sexual harassment in January. My opinion of you has changed quite rapidly there. Anyway, moving on. Lucy Ayoub, and this is quite depressing, because she's not younger than me. She's nearly younger than me. 30 years of age. Also a poet. Need to read some of her work. That's pretty cool. I knew that anyway. She's also a radio host. And, yeah, she was one of the female presenters in Tel Aviv. She did a fine job. But again, you don't really need 4 people. For Rotterdam, we had Chantal Jansen, who is a very, very recognisable name on Dutch television. She's presented so many things. She's also an actress and singer, and she was a strongly rumoured name to present the Rotterdam contest. She did a pretty good job. Edcilia Rombley, who is a TV presenter and a singer, and of course did very well in 1998 in Birmingham with Hemel en Aarde, which is a classic Dutch Eurovision entry, and then she came back in 2007, and the less said about that the better, but she did a very good job as well. Jan Smit was there. I don't know, I think out of all of the presenters in 2021, he was perhaps not quite on the level as the others, without meaning to sound rude, but he was fine. Big singer, part of the toppers. Whether he still is or not, I don't know, but there he is. And then we had Nikki Tutorials herself, and getting her on board I think was a really smart move. She did a lot of the sort of online stuff for Eurovision. What was it called? The Look Lab? Can't even remember. But that was a really wonderful part of the 2021 experience in a way, because she interviewed all of the artists pretty much and asked them all of these questions and gave them Dutch sweet treats. Really, really good. And she seemed completely comfortable doing it. Looked like a complete veteran of TV presenting. I mean, I can't really fault her efforts or performance whatsoever. I thought she did a really splendid job. And what she did in 2021 with the whole online interview stuff, I think that could come back for 2023, and I've got a name in my head as to who could do it. More on that later. As for 2022, this year, Alessandro Catalan, who in this picture is wearing a fine fedora, presented Italy's version of The X Factor for a bit, Total Request Live on MTV Italia 2. He was fine. There was that god-awful moment, though, and again, this is not to do with the presenters, but it was the script. That absolutely shite moment of this year's contest, where they did that sort of TikTok dance stuff. Do you remember? What was that all about? Puh! I just remember watching that and thinking, this is awkward as hell. Goodbye. Then we had Laura Pausini, who was very shouty, but she sang, didn't she? And she's a huge, successful singer in Italy. That wasn't bad. It did drag on a bit, though. And then we had Mika, of course. And Mika, we all know for his music. He was very popular here in Britain once upon a time. Not so much now. But he performed as part of The Interval, and loads of people raved about that, and it was pretty good. But he also slipped up several times as well. So I suppose the motto of the story is, a singer does not necessarily equal TV presenter. Maybe stick to the day job, Mika. He was fine, not awful, but he did make a few errors, which I suppose comes with the pressures of live TV. And he was in the green room as well, and all of that stuff, as I've already established, can be quite awkward. Now, if I had to pick the best presenters of the past decade, I would say 2016. I think a lot of other people would agree with me here. Petra and Mons, really, really fantastic stuff. As I said, the benchmark for future presenters. The script was on point, and they were completely professional, humorous at times, really bang on the money in terms of what you want from a Eurovision presenter, or Eurovision double act. In terms of the weakest, it's got to be 2015. Really, it just felt so poor and wooden. You know, it's almost as if they were just plugged in and programmed to be these presenters for a while. They didn't seem to let loose and really go with the flow, if you see what I mean. Anyway, enough about that. 2016 was the best. 2015 was arguably the weakest. Now, I'm going to load up this website here. Bear with me, it might take a while, because I'm going to take a look, and I've not really looked at this at all, I'll be honest with you. Who could host the 2023 contest in Liverpool? If you ask me, being a Brit, I think that there are very few great TV presenters here in Britain. I would not be surprised one bit if the BBC opted for an established name, an up-and-coming presenter who shouts at you rather than just delivering the necessary information, and perhaps some sort of youngster who's popular online, who is clearly going to get a lot of young people potentially interested in next year's competition. Now, I said a moment ago about somebody sort of doing online content to do with Eurovision next year. I think we'll get a lot of it, maybe more than ever before. There is a name in my head, and I'll be interested to see if they're on this list. I highly doubt it, but we'll see. Anyway, I'm on smarkets.com, and the favourite, the very clear favourite, is Graham Norton. Graham, we all know, long-running chat show, massively experienced, not actually British, he's Irish, but that doesn't matter. He's been commentating since 2009, and he said on British TV not so long ago that he would rather stick with the commentary than actually present the contest, because if somebody else did the commentary, I think he said something along the lines of they would probably be better than me. Graham's great. He really is very good at this. He will have a big part to play in next spring's events. I don't know if he's going to present, though. Terry Wogan did in 1998. He was there with Ulrike Jonsson on stage, and then cleared off backstage to do the commentary, so he was whizzing backwards and forwards a lot. I don't think Graham's going to do that. Somebody actually said to me, I think it was in the comments of one of my previous videos, the role of host has changed since then. I suppose it has a little bit. So Graham will commentate, but probably not host. Second on the list is Rylan Clark. Years ago, Rylan Clark was on the British version of The X Factor, and he became known for crying a lot, and also, with all due respect, not being the best singer. But he has forged what can only be described as a very successful career in terms of TV presenting. He presents so much. He even presents adverts on television, for crying out loud. He's everywhere. You cannot miss his pearly white teeth. He's not bad. He's a big Eurovision fan. He's co-commentated on the semi-finals in the past. I think he's a bit of a shoo-in, I'll be honest with you. I can't imagine Rylan not being involved in next year's show somehow. We'll see. I can see him doing the semi-finals absolutely as a commentator, but whether he takes that next step remains to be seen. AJ Adodu is third on this list. AJ is somebody who I think only came onto the scene a little while ago. She gave out the British points for this year's contest. She's quite relatable and down to earth. She's got that vibe going on. I think she's the favourite to present the rebooted British Big Brother next year. My God, that's a bit of a tongue twister. I haven't really seen her present too much though, so I can't really judge. Jamala is fourth on this list, the Ukraine 2016 winner. I'm not sure she's going to do it, but you never know. Then we've got Mel Giedroyc, who did co-commentate the semi-finals for the BBC for a couple of years, a few years ago. She wouldn't be a bad choice. She's a genuine Eurovision fan as well, I would say. Alex Jones, Welsh, I think, presents The One Show, which is, of course, the show where the host city announcement was made a couple of weeks ago. Not a huge fan, I'll be honest with you. Nothing against her, I'm just not a huge fan. But I'm not surprised. I think she's a really strong contender, actually. Then we've got Alison Hammond. Alison Hammond is massively popular here in the UK. About 20 years ago, she was knocked out early on Would You Believe It, Britain's version of Big Brother, and now she presents on This Morning, which is a long, several hour long sort of chat morning television program here in the UK, long running stuff. Anyway, she presents on that sometimes. She's also appeared on loads of other things. She would be a really popular choice. Really popular. I'm not sure I've ever seen her present something super formal though. Then again, Eurovision isn't super formal. I don't know. She'd be very popular. Alan Carr. Oh my god, he's a comedian. But he has had his own chat show in the past. That would be a very popular choice as well. Wow, that would be interesting. Alicia Dixon, who I think is still a judge on Britain's Got Talent. No. Can't see her doing it. Amanda Holden needs to stay well away from Eurovision. Anton Deck, they're ITV presenters predominantly, but they are a double act, and they are super duper famous here in the UK. Super recognisable. So, I don't know. If anything, if Junior Eurovision was held here, but then again, Junior Eurovision's on the BBC now, isn't it? Ah, yes. Anton Decker out. Anna Matronic, who is part of the band Scissor Sisters, who did co-commentate the semi-finals for the BBC once upon a time, I don't think she'll do it. Dermot O'Leary, that is just the sort of name they'd go for. Presented the X Factor for a bit, also on This Morning. Quite a down-to-earth, casual sort of presenter. Also has ties to Big Brother, unbelievably. What is going on there? He's a safe pair of hands. I can see him maybe doing it. Rochelle Humes, part of the group The Saturdays once upon a time, also presents This Morning occasionally. Married to a singer. Yeah, Rochelle Humes, maybe. Maybe I can see Rochelle playing a part. Keris Matthews, the lead singer of Catatonia, that's a very left field choice. Can't see her doing it. Timur is there, I think he's a shoo-in. Clara Amfo, that's a pretty interesting choice. I believe she's a radio presenter, radio DJ. That's not a bad shout. Claudia Winkleman co-presents Strictly Come Dancing. Can see her playing a part, perhaps. Davina McCall. Oh yeah, Davina McCall is a very experienced TV presenter. Used to present Big Brother for years. Unbelievable, the ties to that show. Davina, I think, pretty safe pair of hands. Wouldn't be surprised if she's picked. Denise Van Outen, can't see that happening at all. Emma Willis is a very, very likely choice. Presents The Voice, I believe, and The Voice Kids. Loads of other shows as well. Very recognisable. I think Emma Willis is a very good shout. A very good shout. Fern Cotton, yeah. Greg James, yeah. These are sort of TV radio presenters. Holly Willoughby, I doubt it now. James Corden. You have got to be having a laugh. Jeremy Vine? Where are they getting these names from? I tell you, Britain is thin on the ground in terms of great presenters. Kylie Minogue is mentioned. Laura Whitmore presented Love Island up until recently, and she's co-commentated on semi-finals in the past. Laura Whitmore is a very, very strong contender in my eyes. Mons Zelmerlov, why would he do it? He's not even British. Maya Jama, that would be a popular choice, the new presenter of Love Island. Michelle Visage, she's got links to Eurovision a little bit, she'd be a popular choice. Nigella Lawson is not a presenter, so shouldn't be anywhere near this. Richard Osman, yeah, the writer, predominantly now. Scott Mills, he'll stick with the semi-finals. Tess Daly, if she did it, Claudia Winkleman would do it with her. Ties to Strictly, of course. I'm surprised Vic Hope isn't there. She's a sort of TV presenter, quite young still, up and coming. Hasn't been around for years and years and years, but I'm surprised her name is not there. And there was another name in my head that I've completely forgotten. But before I end this messy video, and maybe you'll know who I'm on about here, there I was earlier talking about online content, the sort of Nikki tutorials thing from a few years ago. I think bring something like that back. But the name I had in my head is Amelia de Moldenberg, who you might know for her Chicken Shop Date series on YouTube. And I think she's branching out into other presenting stuff as well now. She would be a very interesting, and I think highly popular choice for online Eurovision content next year. I can really see her doing it. She's known for her sort of sarcasm and poker face, and just something like that with Eurovision acts. Could be onto a winner, is all I'm saying. If you know who I'm on about, then maybe you agree with me here. But I think that would be very, very interesting indeed. Really interesting. Anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Genuinely interested. Apologies if this video was a complete shambles, but I wanted to film it anyway. And I'll be back with more Eurovision related news in the near future. This evening, today being the 25th of October, we are getting the Spanish contenders, I believe. Not the songs necessarily, I'd be surprised, but the Spanish names. Very exciting. Until next time, take care of yourselves, stay safe, let me know your thoughts in the comments, and bye for now. Take care.